Hi and welcome to Team Boonana. I'm Jay, and today what we're going to be looking at is the concept of a full screen 2DS, so something a little bit different. What we're going to be looking at is how would we go about doing this? I mean, is it even possible? I mean, can it be made? And the particular design we're going to be looking at is from the Congressman 1. I believe he was the first person to come up with this idea, as far as I know. Is the most popular one that's been strewn around on the internet anyways. So, I'd like to say a big thank you to him first. He's allowed me to use his artwork, and I've been talking to him, and he's quite interested anyway whether this is actually possible. So this video is partly for him too. So the first thing on the list of things is the most obvious one, and that's the screen. I mean, looking at the picture, you can see that the top and bottom screens have been made the same size, and the black plastic bar separating the two screens has been removed. Now, this is completely possible. I mean, as you've seen in one of my other videos, we took apart the 2DS, we had a look at the screen, and it is just one big large LCD that's in there. So, first tick in the box is you could have two large screens, there's nothing stopping you doing that. The next thing is it's got to be touchscreen, or at least half of it's got to be touchscreen. Now, in this case, I think we're going to go for full touchscreen, because looking at the concept art again, if you look at the top right corner right now, there's a little paint sort of program open in the white 2DS there, and there's Luigi. Now, obviously, what the Congressman 1 was going for was some kind of painting tablet where the whole screen can be taken advantage of. Now, ideally, a capacitive touchscreen would be absolutely beautiful on this device. It really would complement the way things work, but that would require different chipsets, different drivers, and a bit more firmware being rewritten on the 2DS, because what the 2DS actually functions on is resistive touch, which actually uses a membrane. And the difference between the two is capacitive touch uses an electric field. It's essentially a capacitor which uses a double layered membrane that detects the electrical field of the human body. And obviously when you go into proximity of that electric field, there's a little algorithm and some chips and stuff that detect that there is presence there. And by using that, you can actually use it to map coordinates as well of where the field is being interrupted. And this is why, like on the iPhone, Samsung phones, stuff like that, you're able to use more than just one finger to control a device at a time. So what the 2DS would have to have, and I think they've gone for resistive touchscreen as well because it's slightly more durable, it's very similar to what you have inside a computer keyboard. You've got two plastic laminates which have some conductive material on the two inner sides that are facing each other, and it's made up of lots and lots of tiny little pockets and cells. So when you use your stylus and you tap on the screen, you're actually just pressing tiny buttons that are all over that plastic membrane. And by having it like this, I mean, it's not as fragile as capacitive touch, because capacitive touch usually comes in the format of glass laminates, Gorilla Glass, and as you know, if you've got an iPhone or a smartphone of any other type, you drop it and instantly it looks like a smashed car window screen. That's because it's got glass in it. The resistive version of touchscreen doesn't require you to need any of that. It's just literally plastic membrane that can be laid over plastic, glass, whatever transparent medium. If we're in the future, transparent aluminium from Star Trek, whatever, if it's transparent, you can lay it over it. So that would be the most likely option. Now, Nintendo would already have the programming and the sort of serial interface to take advantage of a larger resistive touch panel. The only thing with that is things like the paint program wouldn't run as smooth. So again, ideally you'd need capacitive touch. So I think in order to actually achieve this, I mean, looking at the paint program that's in this concept art, I think you are going to have to go for capacitive touch. Unfortunately, I mean, Nintendo would be more geared up to take on a resistive touchscreen upgrade, even if it's a larger size, because you've already got the infrastructure there. The device has already got the programming, it's already got the chipset drivers, it's already got the serial interface that's ready to accept input from a resistive touch screen. So really, they would have to kind of essentially just chuck out everything that they've created for the resistive touchscreen and just come back at it anew in order to accommodate for some capacitive touch. Now, given the fact that they use resistive touch because of its slightly more durable properties, I think they may even have to come round and potentially create their own capacitive touchscreen panel, because this again is a device that's meant to be well, it's not meant to be thrown around, but unfortunately they do get dropped, they do get knocked about, they get sat on, etc. So I think they would have to put something in place. I mean, one option would be is if you use a like a Gorilla Glass capacitive touchscreen panel, although they are quite strong in the first place, if you could increase the capacitive field of that panel to accommodate for 1 or 2 millimeters of clear polycarbonate to be laminated on top while still maintaining accuracy, because the trouble is you put something on top, even if you've put like a screen protector on, again like the iPhone, whatever smartphone you've got, you'll notice that sometimes you try to touch the screen and use it as you did before, and it's not quite responding as well as it was, and those things are literally 0.1, 0.2 of a millimeter thick, and even that slight distance away from the capacitive field, that is enough to actually hinder accuracy of your, you know, text messaging and things like that. So they really would have to think of something a little outside the box, or just crank up the voltage to that capacitive element, because otherwise you're just not going to get the accuracy in there. But at the same time, we need to protect that screen, because this thing is definitely going to get dropped. Now, if you're using capacitive touch, the stylus that you got already, you may as well just chuck it over your shoulder, because it's going to be absolutely useless. What you need now is a smart interactive stylus, or you need a conductive stylus that is going to allow the touch element to function with the stylus. And yeah, that could be quite interesting actually. I mean, you look at the Samsung Note, that's got one of these partly conductive, partly smart styluses. It features a little button on it which allows you to conduct other features. So, you know, it could be something like, if you're looking again in the top right corner of this image, it could be something like the stylus does have a button on it, a bit like the Samsung stylus, and simply by pressing down the little button on it, you could either cycle through colors, or maybe you could hold it down and it becomes an eraser, you know, so you can rub out any mistakes and stuff with it. I guess, you know, it's just food for thought, and I think they would have to be quite careful in where they located that button if they were going to do that on the stylus, because using styluses like that, if you're not paying full attention to how you're holding the stylus, you can end up pressing that button, you know, and it starts interrupting what you're doing. But if it was put in the right place, it could be quite a handy tool. And I also think if this was paired with a capacitive touchscreen and you did have like a Nintendo Paint program, you would actually be able to create some quite artistic pieces. It would just open up the DS altogether. It would become something completely different. I think my final thoughts on this would be, if you look to the top right corner of the console, you've got that little status light there. Now, if you've looked at my other videos where we've taken this thing apart, you'll notice that there is actually quite a bit of space inside the chassis. Now, there's no reason why they couldn't put another speaker in there, so you're getting stereo audio, because most of the 3DS games are, in fact, you know, in stereo, and that little light could be moved to the bottom left or bottom right corner. So, I think that about wraps it up for this video. Thanks again to the Congressman 1 and to everyone out there. I hope you've enjoyed this video and found it interesting. If you look at the description of the video, you'll find a link to the Congressman's 1 DeviantArt if you just want to visit him there. Also, we're on Facebook, Twitter. We've got the blog up and running, which is gradually catching up to speed now, and we're going to be holding some competitions and things like that in the near future, hopefully. We've got some models on board now, so you'll be seeing more content and things from them. Lots of new and lovely exciting changes happening here, so be sure to subscribe, like us, follow us, and keep watching.